You can almost hear the cheers of delight across the whole of Port Stephens, but it's those living in Lemon Tree Passage and Malabula who are really celebrating. Land valuations there have gone through the roof. On average, they've tripled. A residential block of land, for example, has gone from $51,400 in 2001 to $182,000 in 2004. The Mayor attributes it to strong demand for land.
If you look around Port Stephens, there are very few vacant blocks of land, especially anywhere near the water, and I think it's just supply and demand. There's a lot of people coming up from Sydney to either retire, to buy a weekend, or to buy an investment property.
Madawi, the fastest growing area of Port Stephens, has also been a big mover, land values more than doubling.
One that I can think of, which is a vacant block of land which we've sold and then resold in that time, has increased by nearly $80,000, and that was in an 18-month period.
But the biggest jump in land value for a single block of land has occurred in Raymond Terrace. This 4.8 hectare parcel of land in Raymond Terrace has increased from $25,000 to $176,000 in 3 years. That's an increase of 700%. And one question remains, will council rates follow suit?
No, there won't be huge increases. The exercises we've done, there might be 5 or 10% increases in the rates on individual blocks, but they shouldn't be much higher than that.
This is one of hundreds of flyers distributed in a letterbox drop through the streets of Wickham and Islington. The leaflets spell out the views of an extreme right-wing group, the Concerned Citizens Collective. They read, local residents have the right to enjoy a lifestyle free of multicultural disasters, pro-immigration nutcases and ethnic gangs formed by newly arrived groups. And it goes on to say Australia should adopt an isolationist policy rather than let Sudanese refugees run riot in our neighbourhood streets. Violetta Walsh from Newcastle's Migrant Resource Centre is shocked and saddened by the blatant racist remarks.
Frankly, we're appalled. It's very, very close to racial vilification. The other is that it sits at such great odds with the kind of community that we know Newcastle to be.
And those who received the flyer in their mail are also outraged.
I was pretty mortified, actually. I didn't think that it was appropriate at all.
The only name included on the flyer is that of Sydney man Dr. James Salim. He was the head of a high-profile Australian Nazi far-right-wing extremist group called National Action. In 1991, James Salim was sentenced to 3.5 years jail for organising an attack on the home of an African Congress representative in Australia. He pleaded not guilty. He will address a public meeting in Islington Park this weekend.
I really hope nobody goes. I don't think that these people deserve this.
The Citizens Collective did not return our calls today. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Since he was 8 years old, Craig Anderson has ripped around the Lake Macquarie track, and nothing much changed at the club's Summercross event at the weekend. And after 2 years racing in America on the sport's biggest stage, he's back home for good.
touch and go there for a while. I wanted to stay and I want to go home, and I didn't really know what to do. But, we're home now and, just put everything I've got into it.
With 11 national supercross and motocross titles already to his name, Ando is looking for more, with Honda, who lured him home.
My goal is to obviously win both championships and just be on the podium every single weekend.
He did at his first outing at home in 2 years, where getting out in front was easier said than done. It wasn't his only win for the day, with the 26-year-old honoured by his boyhood club with life membership. His achievements say it all, but his ability to inspire the next generation of racers can't be underestimated either.
Look down at him now and thinking that I was there, and I don't think I was riding that fast.
Lake Macquarie will host the first round of the state junior motocross titles in March, but the club is hoping it's only the start, with claims on the Australian Championships, which would bring around 1,000 riders to the revamped Ryhope track.
In these days of high-tech everything, this is an increasingly rare sight. The hand-pick of older vines is a 150-year tradition at Drayton's Family Wines. For many of these workers, it's an annual earner.
Just doing it, done it for a couple of years while I'm at uni. Gives me something to do in the holidays, I guess. It's kind of a bit hard on the back, but it's not too bad, especially with the weather today. It's been pretty nice.
The harvest began here at dawn. Chardonnay, the first grapes to be plucked from the vines.
These grapes here are looking real good. Look like they've got good flavour in them.
The harvest will run for another 4 to 5 weeks. As always, it's largely at the mercy of the weather. Vignerons are hopeful storm season will be kind.
Obviously this is a critical time and we've all got our fingers crossed.
The weather is far from the only concern. There's extra pressure for this year's crop to be a quality one, with winemakers battling an industry-wide rationalisation.
It just means we've all got to work a little bit harder and hopefully that we will all survive this downturn.
Harvest 2005 holds that promise. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News. It's a fair stretch up the line from Newcastle, but Maitland's mayor insists his city will feel the loss of the inner city rail.
People are using the rail in this area going to Newcastle.
Maitland City Council has opposed the axing of the line, saying it's an important link for the people of the valley. Newly sworn-in Transport Minister John Watkins has been approached to review the decision, but his office says it stands. Mayor Blackmore says the new minister could have at least visited the area to hear local concerns.
When it comes out, no, we've made our determination, that to me hints of a certain amount of arrogance.
While disappointed, Councillor Blackmore says it seems the fight is over. At least one group, though, hasn't given up hope. Save Our Rail will stage a rally on Wednesday at Newcastle Station to again highlight the issue. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
From humble beginnings to international acclaim, the 48th annual Maitland Salon of Photography is back, and it's again proving why it's one of the best print exhibitions in the world.
It's through the hard work of a great number of individuals over many, many years. It started out in 1934 from simply two gentlemen who wanted to have photography displayed alongside fine art at the Maitland show.
Local photographer Jim Thompson made the cut for his shot of these osprey landing in their nest. It's not bad for a man from Lorne who's now competing with some of the world's best.
Some 4,000 or 5,000 entries from around 3,000 entrants from 53 countries.
Australian photographer Lou Marafiotti won Best Colour Print, while Germany's Wolfgang Schweden's shot of these trotters won him the Best Black and White. The Maitland Regional Gallery has also announced plans for next month's exhibition. A variety of works will be on display, bringing back many memories for those who lived through the devastating 1955 flood. Leona Kelly, NBN News.
Ollie Maywald ended a 34-year career in teaching when she retired on December 18 last year. The next day she found out she had been awarded an Order of Australia medal for her contribution to education, student welfare and gymnastics, but she had to keep it a secret until today. A former national gymnastics coach, Ollie moved to Belmont High in 1981 to teach physical development, health and PE, and it's from the classroom that she takes some of her fondest life memories.
I just love kids and I love working with kids. I think they're fantastic and they give you lots of life's experiences and opportunities, and you actually get more back than you give.
75-year-old June Welsh is another Hunter resident to receive an OAM. The Lemon Tree Passage grandmother has cared for injured wildlife for 15 years. Although she's retired now, June can't turn away a sick animal, such as the possum that arrived while we were at her home today.
I'm a helper. I'm a voluntary helper with anybody who comes.
And there were several other people from the Hunter who were also recognised for their contributions to a variety of areas with an OAM. Merryweather's Captain Colin Maslin was the only Novocastrian to receive an Australian Fire Service medal today. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
A group calling itself the Concerned Citizens Collective was chased out of Islington Park last Saturday after it staged a poorly attended anti-immigration rally which singled out members of Newcastle's Sudanese refugee community. A key organiser of that rally, seen by many as a racist event, was Salvation Army worker Stuart Macbeth, who was called before senior officers today for a please explain.
So was he sacked?
I'm just going to say that as a result of that conversation, he hasn't returned to his workplace. He's not employed with the Salvation Army anymore.
Macbeth, who worked as a case officer with the Salvo's housing program, was suspended briefly from his job last year after it was revealed he was the founder of a group calling itself the Patriotic Youth League that was linked with a racist campaign at the University of Newcastle.
Well, the Salvation Army, as everybody would know, has a definite mission and an ethos, and that's not to discriminate against any person whatsoever. We're there for all people, and while Stuart was an employee and in fact, did his job, there were some values that were in conflict with the Salvation Army.
The Salvation Army says it's bracing itself for a possible unfair dismissal case. Looking west from the so-called squareabout, excavations are well underway for 5 buildings as part of the Lee Wharf development. Further west, a second block is being constructed next to the Spark-Helmore building, and further west still, the new Hunter Water Corporation headquarters are well advanced.
I was pretty happy to win it, being a reserve at the start. I only just got into the whole competition.
Back in 2002, this 12-bed detoxification unit was opened at Belmont Hospital, but only now has it gained the extra funding needed to include a medicated detox program, providing drugs such as Valium for those with an alcohol dependency. 4 of the existing 12 beds have been converted to cater for medicated detoxification, providing a higher level of care for patients with a range of addictions.
It's really a mix. Alcohol's a major one, then amphetamines, then cannabis. A lot of people are using cannabis to a very high degree, and then after that, opiates.
The service provides detoxification for around 520 people each year, each patient staying around 5 to 7 days on average. And while 4 beds may not sound like much, they say it's a substantial boost to the existing detoxification services at the Mater Hospital.
Having it within the detox unit, the capacity to offer medications for those who are sicker, we can help take the pressure off some of the general hospitals who've normally had to treat these patients.
Joyce Wong was walking at 10 months, reading at age 3 and recorded an IQ of 180 in primary school. So it's not surprising the humble teenager scored herself a mark of 97.6 in the high school certificate and a place at medical school, all at the age of 15. And according to Joyce, it wasn't at all difficult.
It actually hasn't been hard in any sense, because my peers at school, they've all been really great. They've all accepted me as I am, and I'm just part of the class.
Becoming a doctor will realise a dream for Joyce, keen to follow the same profession as her father. But Dad Bo doesn't take any of the credit for the intelligent teenager.
We didn't do anything special, particularly, that's all. By God's grace, I would say, that she got this gift and was recognised by her teachers in Sydney.
The head of Newcastle University's medical school, Professor Michael Hensley, says she must be an exceptionally gifted student and is among a rare few to gain entry at such a young age.
She's very young at 15, and she's one of a very small number of students whom we've accepted at the age of 15.
However, Joyce, who is a graded piano teacher, won't be diving into the 5-year medical degree just yet, opting to defer for a year.
Well, I guess that at 15 it's a bit young to go to uni, and it gives me a chance to grow up, to stay another year with my family and to do more with my music.
After a less than impressive midweek match against West Sydney, the Pirates knew a win in Cairns could still help them sew up a playoff spot. Co-captain Ben Melmoth leading by example. Playing more for pride than a place in post-season games, the Taipans were proving they could be a real nuisance in the closing rounds. And didn't the Pirates find out all about it? Melmoth sent flying by Ben Burgess. The real pain, though, came in turnovers. 29 times the Pirates gave it away, and didn't Burgess enjoy making them pay? In saying that, Hunter was still well in the hunt, with Kavossi Franklin and some incredible moves from Brian Weathers actually moving the Pirates to some 10 points clear at one stage. When they both combined, it was great to watch, in a match where the lead seesawed throughout. Not so much fun was the way Cairns sliced and diced their defence in the final term. With all the momentum in the closing minutes, it was the home side who powered on to score a rare win and leave Hunter vulnerable once more in 8th spot.
A colourful tribute was unveiled in Kurri Kurri this morning, a birthday present of sorts for the town's brigade. A convoy of trucks complete with a Dalmatian won the hearts of an adoring public, lining the main street as a way to say thank you.
And it's good to acknowledge 100 years of community service, and often that service is behind the scenes, but also often it's above and beyond the call of duty.
Within that 100 years, it was the Abernathy bushfires in 2002, which the local brigade captain recounts as one of the biggest jobs his branch has ever worked on.
And that was pretty horrific. We've also had the Kurri Kurri Wreckers fire here not so long back. That was a pretty big job, and we had units from all over the area come in and assist us.
A grant to the equivalent of $2.10 helped volunteers get a basic service operational in 1905. Fast forward 100 years and it's still servicing the community. Today's celebration more than pomp and ceremony, but educational as well.
No matter how many books or how much advice on the subject, getting babies to sleep and keeping them that way remains a mystery for some parents. 7-month-old baby Nathaniel is mostly an angel, but at sleep time he can be a little devil.
Just no sleep. I mean, the family were just quite stressed and not getting any sleep at all.
Enter baby settler Natalie Hogg, a Newcastle mother of 3 and a registered nurse who started a home visiting service, offering strung-out parents a light at the end of a sometimes very long, sleep-deprived tunnel.
So the babies are frustrated and cranky and irritable, and that affects the relationship with the mother and the father. They're not enjoying the baby.
Natalie insists that it takes just one home visit for a bad case of baby blues to be turned around. It's all got to do with replacing pre-sleeping habits such as rocking, cuddling, suckling and dummies with a regular sleep time routine.
But also preparing the baby for sleep, not just putting the baby to sleep. So we look at how the baby sleeps, how they feed and how they play.
With a 100% success rate, Natalie says her custom-designed method of settling newborns to toddlers has taken off. She even offers a telephone service and a sleep and settle website for long-distance desperate mums.
Before he was waking so many times, but now he's not so many times, so we're a lot happier.
Now, if at the end of this year, if at the end of the season, if everyone respects what we can do and what we've done, then it's my job and I can happily walk away from that.
Lying a baby on its back to sleep is a well-known way to reduce the risk of sudden infant death syndrome, and it seems that message is getting through to parents in the Hunter. But when it comes to smoking and the high risks associated with SIDS, it's another story.
At present, we're still seeing that 25% of families who are having children are still smoking in the Hunter region, and this is above the state average of 17.5%, so that's quite alarming.
If a mother smokes, the risk of SIDS is doubled. If the father smokes too, it's doubled again. In fact, the SIDS and Kids organisation says exposing babies to passive smoking is so bad that studies show it's like a parent placing a cigarette in the baby's mouth.
So it's really important that before families decide to have children, that they stop smoking. That way they can give their child every chance of reducing premature births, sudden infant death syndrome and a variety of other respiratory and heart-related problems.
And while the education and advice is out there, why do Hunter parents still smoke and why are the Hunters' smoking rates so high? Sue Ellen says it's a socio-economic trend.
The region has lots of families who are doing it really tough, and I think smoking unfortunately is one of their coping mechanisms.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's a sight that teammates and coaching staff have waited a long time to see. Brendan Mann and Mitch Selwood back on court and training. The Australian under-20 rep a chance for tomorrow night's game against Perth, but he'll more likely suit up against the Kings on Friday.
It all depends how I go today at training. If I can get through it, I'm probably not in the best shape, having not done anything for a while. Like riding the bike's good, but it's nothing like playing games or training every day.
The co-captain's plight not so clear-cut. A foot injury continues to hamper him, and it's really a matter of wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be out there yesterday. So, but it's just a matter of seeing how I pull up from sessions, and if I'm going to come back, I have to do the right thing by the team.
And that means being fully fit.
Progress the last week or so has been really good. So it's a thing where I'll probably have to sit down with the coaching staff, see what their thoughts are, and we'll go from there.
As for the team, focus is purely on winning games, with contract negotiations and questions on their coach's future all on hold until post-season.
We just want to put that aside until the season's over. I just want to concentrate now on winning games, and that's the most important thing. We don't want any distractions at this time.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Information was received of a historic nature in relation to the location of a possible shallow grave in the Wadigan Mountains.
With 6 world crowns under his belt, Kelly Slater has to be one of the world's most accomplished surfers. But it's failed to satisfy the 33-year-old, who's confirmed he'll be among the starters in this year's championship tour, pushing for world title number 7. His first event, the Quicksilver Pro at Snapper Rocks in March.
The waves on the Gold Coast are user-friendly. They're probably the easiest waves in the world to surf really good on.
Not good enough, it seems, in recent years, with Snapper Rocks hardly a happy hunting ground for the American, who hasn't won there since 1998.
I feel like I've been close, even though I haven't made the semis or the finals last few years. I feel like I'm just a notch away from having a really good result there.
Andy Irons stands in his way, though, even more determined to take out the Snapper Rocks leg after he was pipped by New South Welshman Mick Lowe in last year's final. The Gold Coast's Joel Parkinson is also shaping up as a real threat.
Andy got second last year. He's never won on the Gold Coast, so he's probably hungry for that. Joel has won before. Took me out in his 0-2.
It didn't take long for both teams to pull out all stops, three-point shooting proving a popular option. With a game-high 29, Kavossi Franklin gave it his all, one of 6 Pirates to break into double figures. Import Brian Weathers did his bit to maintain an impressive margin. In defence, Damon Lowry stole any chance the Wildcats had. Everything seemed to fall the hosts' way, with Franklin and Weathers simply outpacing their opponents. Former Pirate Matt Shanahan received an icy welcome from the Hunter faithful, top scoring for the Wildcats with 23. Nothing, though, could sour this win for the Pirates as the race to the playoffs continues.
The good thing for us is now it means that the Razorbacks have to win their last 3 games. They've got to win all of their games. It means Cairns are out of it now, so it's really down to ourselves and the Razorbacks.
It's certainly an unusual sight. A full-grown woman in a fairy costume traipsing through a muddy construction site in a safety vest. But this is no illusion. This is Fairy Sparkle. Yes, that's her real name. She's a real-life fairy who works with sick children, and now she's working her magic on this piece of land between buildings at the John Hunter Hospital. And her goal is quite ambitious.
To create the most amazing forest garden in this space so kids can come out and enjoy the magic and be able to escape the 4 walls of the hospital.
And there's merit in her magic, with similar havens for ill children like this one at Sydney Children's Hospital at Randwick already proving beneficial.
If you actually want to feel well and get over an illness, you've kind of got to be in nice surroundings. It's got to look good and feel good, and you need time out.
The community is being asked to help fund the project. Variety has jumped on board, donating $150,000, while Darracon has volunteered its construction expertise. And with Fairy's help, it's sure to be finished in no time. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
With New South Wales wanting to breathe new life into its Sydney competition during the months where Super 12 commitments drain clubs' talent, Newcastle is one of 3 country zones invited to play in a revamped competition. The plan is 2 pools of 8 teams will play a round-robin format during March and April with a final series before those country players return to their regular club competition.
Certainly the board's expressed great interest in taking up that invitation. We have to have it endorsed by our member clubs and we'll be seeking that endorsement.
Memories of the Newcastle wildfires are sure to burn bright during discussion. A regional side that joined Sydney's competition in 1995, it was discarded just 4 years later. This time, Newcastle has been guaranteed a minimum of 3 seasons and would be run by the Newcastle Union.
Well, it certainly is a different entity. It's controlled by the local NHRU zone and union and the member clubs.
A decision should be reached next month.
Women's sport, things like this happen all the time. We're used to it.
You could understand why Guy Bates came under extra attention today. Leading the scoring for Newcastle United's reserve grade side back home in England, the 19-year-old wants to play regular senior football. And while he's considered European options, he's keen to book himself a spot with the Jets.
It's hard to leave. I mean, when you've lived in Newcastle in England all your life and you've played for them since you're 8-year-old. But when you look at the competition ahead of you, Patrick Kluivert, Alan Shearer, Craig Bellamy, I mean, these are world-class players.
Given a solid trial and the fact his English club will subsidise the striker's wage, Bates is almost a certainty to stay. Other homegrown talent, meanwhile, trialled today merely for spots in a small train-on group the club will draw on throughout the season. Those signed to the senior squad meet tomorrow for the first time, and not a day too soon for coaching staff.
I just can't wait, I've been like a wild horse behind the barriers,
A 2-year deal remains on the table for former Socceroo Paul Ocon as the club looks to round out its playing roster. The post-game emotions said it all as Hunter became only the third club to reach the playoffs in just its second year.
Now we're in.
But what a way to do it, playing their 6th game in 12 days and up against competition heavyweights Wollongong at home. The Pirates staged arguably their most important win.
Brian was terrific, Brad was terrific, but how about Larry Davison, the rookie?
Few words could describe Kavossi Franklin's effort though. The import's simply inspirational, with numbers best telling his story, 45 points without one turnover. Helping Hunter fight back, it was the steady hand of Russell Hinder that actually took Hunter into overtime, where again the home side looked to have sealed a win. With less than 5 seconds left, Franklin fired off a prayer and got the answer he was after. Forcing double overtime, it sucked the life out of the home side and lifted Hunter to another level.
It was a shot I had to take. Time was running out. When I let it go, I knew it was going in.
Finally, after 68 minutes, Hunter was home and into the playoffs.
I never give up until that horn go off. I was always taught that.
Fans will hope these stay a big part of his game as well. Jim Callanan, NBN News. Standing proudly among his fellow award winners last night, Nathan Outteridge hid his discomfort well. Wearing a back brace, he braved the pain of recent surgery after surviving a car accident to receive the honour. After winning his 3rd World Youth Sailing title last year, he was always strongly favoured for the award, and he added 2 more national titles to his name only days before his accident. He'll remain in a brace for another 2 months, but a return to sailing is still some time off yet. Dual Paralympic gold medalist Kurt Fearnley, who trained in Newcastle prior to the Athens Games, was awarded Athlete of the Year with a disability. Now attending university in Bathurst, Fearnley has returned to training as he plans to defend his 5,000 metre and marathon winning efforts.
Dr. Vlad Beelan has been servicing Shortland for over 2 decades in what is the suburbs-only general practice. As of Friday, it's just an empty building, with Dr. Beelan forced to shut down for 3 months to recover from illness after a year-long search failed to find a locum.
He's come up with nothing. It's been so hard for him, and the community feels for him because he's not well and he needs the assistance.
Unlikely given just 3 locums service the region.
But there's 400 GPs in this area working in about 160 practices. So the maths is pretty clear.
For Kim Hillary, the mother of 2 will have to look elsewhere while Dr. Beelan is off sick, as will the rest of his patients, placing more pressure on other practices already stretched to the limit.
There isn't enough room and the bulk billing facilities aren't available to everybody, so it does make it hard for a lot of local people.
It's not the first time a Hunter surgery has had to close down, with very public battles to find a new doctor in Karua and Boolaroo. Doctors blame a lack of forward planning.
There are plans in place to train more doctors, but as I've said, that'll take about 10 years before that starts to sort the problem out.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Away from the Melbourne line. Well, that is a dangerous tackle. And Kearney is involved. Oh, gee.
In such rich form, NBL sides would love to have Kavossi Franklin in their lineup these days. It was a different story at the start of the season though, and he hasn't forgotten it.
They passed up on me last year and that was just adding fuel to the fire, so right now the fire is lit and the flame is getting bigger and bigger. So
with the Pirates now playoff bound, it's an ominous warning, while he also gave club management a heads up on his plans past this season.
I want to finish out my career here in the Hunter Valley. I mean, I love it up here, man. Like I said, it's relaxing. You got good beaches, you got good weather, you got good people.
First things first, and that's the last competition game against West Sydney on Friday night in a match that doubles as the Razorbacks season ender. That sits fine with Russell Hinder. He was cut from the Sydney side last year and will enjoy sending his former team out.
Win, lose or draw, I'll have a little smile shaking the hand of the CEO after the game, definitely. It'll be good fun, I'm looking forward to it.
As they all are to the playoffs, where Josh Morgan and Brendan Mann hope they can make a return from injury. Jim Callanan, NBN News. With their forward stocks depleted before a competition ball was kicked, Matthew White and Cade Snowden have been forced to front up for work in the top grade. They're not the only ones heading to Melbourne facing a first. Former Storm players Kirk Reynoldson and Dustin Cooper will run out as Knights on a ground that's now enemy territory.
They pull out 8,000 people, but 8,000 people makes a lot of noise in Olympic Park, and they're very parochial, like all Victorians are, I suppose.
It'll be a long 80 minutes for the lock forward, who's expected to play the full game against his old team.
The text messages have been flying back and forth, so all in friendly gesture, I hope. So, but no, the boys have been revving it into me, and I'm sure that first hit up, I'm just going to cover my head, put the ball under my jersey and run.
Perhaps it was because he was wearing a Storm jersey today, but Gordon Tallis doesn't rate Newcastle much of a chance on Saturday, believing they relied too much on captain Andrew Johns, and with injury across the board, he's backing the home side.
Tipping Melbourne to beat Newcastle in the first game. Badiris isn't playing and he's just as good as Andrew Johns in my mind.
It's fair to say the 17 that run out on Sunday will be aiming to prove him wrong. Jim Callanan, NBN News.